Canada. Let's talk about psychopaths. Sociopaths, I think, is a much better terminology for the most part. But due to this study and the way it was covered, they were testing for psychopaths. But we're still talking about people that, have the same baseline, basic disruptive personality. Just let's just start from this article, shall we? By the way, this was covered by Forbes, Washington Post, CBC, Huffington Post, all the main establishment media. I think it was first run back in 2014 and it's been re-aired again this year, or editorialized or run as another news story in 2015. Anyways, everyone I have ever worked with has at some point called another colleague or coworker crazy. But does your job actually attract true psychopaths? In the book, The Wisdom of Psychopaths, What Saints, Spies, and Serial Killers Can Teach Us About Success, Kevin Dutton explains that there are jobs that can attract literal psychopaths, and also jobs that are least likely to do so. It's important to note that a psychopathic person isn't necessarily one that is set out to kill others, even though you might feel as such on a Wednesday afternoon in the office. In reality, psychopaths merely and typically just lack emotions and empathy. Okay. They lack emotions and empathy. Keep those two words in the back of your head as we discuss this topic. Or the ability to identify with others. Well, which is the lack of emotion and empathy. Dutton has said that a number of psychopathic attributes are actually more common in business leaders than in so-called disturbed criminals. Attributes such as superficial charm, egocentricity, persuasiveness, lack of empathy, independence, and focus. This may explain why many of the jobs attractive to psychopaths, such as CEOs, salespeople, and media types, are often found in the tech industry. Yep. So what jobs are most attractive to psychopaths? Here's the list, originally published online by Eric Barker. So CEO is number one, which, CEO, when they're talking CEO, obviously they're not talking small to medium business owners. You're talking about corporatists, the leaders in the corporations, the higher-ups in the mega corporations. That's really what we're talking about. And what is a corporation? Think about it here now. What is a corporation? A corporation is a fictional legal entity created through government legislation. So yeah, makes sense. Lawyer. Do I really have to say anything much about that, right? I think we're all kind of clear on that thing. Lawyer, yeah. Psychopaths, yeah. Will you sell your soul out to the devil for a buck? That is literally the job description of a lawyer. So yeah, media, television, and radio. So all these news pundits that you trust so much in your mainstream media, yeah. And I mean, I've seen and recognized this on my own, and I've pointed this out. I call them sociopaths, but for the sake of this video, they're called psychopaths. Huge. They're rampant. It's all about the populism or controlling the message or the narrative. It's never, they have no empathy. They don't give a shit. Yeah. Salesperson. Of course, a salesperson. We've all heard, I could sell ice cubes to an Eskimo, or hey, you want to buy some oceanfront property in Utah? Yeah, a salesman basically what they're talking about is someone that can lie and deceive you, look you straight in the eye, and lie and deceive you and trick you into, making a buck for them. No, they'll sell themselves out, no problem, for Hey, don't even need a buck. 50 cents. A surgeon. Once again. So, surgeon. That's the thing. We had such thing in most practices, like where they were just surgeons that were private and were held to account. But as we all know, a surgeon means you've got a accreditation from the government. Yeah, so yeah, surgeon. Yep. Journalist. Okay, think about it. Number 3 and number 6, media, television, radio, and then they still got an extra one there for journalist. Whoa, the propagandists, the storytellers, the media personalities. Are you starting to recognize in any way, shape, or form, some of you? I know a lot of you that watch my videos now are probably pretty much aware of this stuff and up to date on all these issues. But for those of you who ain't, you see any kind of correlation? See any pattern here? I'm sure you will. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, this is definitely not a shocker and completely aligns with what we're talking about here. Police officer. Oh, yeah. Probably, I don't know why they're down at number 7. Maybe they weren't put in order of the amount of, well, of course, you probably couldn't, right? But yeah, police officer. Of course they're psychopaths. These people, just like military personnel, they should have been put in there. But anyways, we'll get to the next few after that. But they're order followers. Or the higher-ups, the order givers. But they're still followers. Even the higher-up, even the police chief is just an order fucking follower. You know that. They might give their orders to their subordinates, just like a sergeant or a corporal, or a colonel in the military. But they don't. They still get their orders from a higher up to them. So they're all still order followers, from the lowly corporal or whatever, the constable, I believe they are, all the way up to your sergeants or whatever the hell you want to call these fuckers. But yeah, so police officers, no shit. Oh, government once again. Clergy person. Well, that could be both. All kinds of religion. The traditional religions. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Scientology or whatever. All kinds of different religions for a clergy person. But politician, senator, MP, premier, prime minister, let's say, head clergy, the Pope. I mean, whatever. But yeah, clergymen, people that believe in the mysticism of religion or statism, which is same thing, same shit, different pile. Chef. I don't know. I'm not really familiar with many chefs, but yeah, that's possible, right? I guess. Just gonna that one, I don't know, just whatever. But number 10, civil servant. Which is that's not like painting with a broad brush. A civil servant, which is someone that works for government. And I mean, but think about it. They're supposed to be a civil servant. A servant. You wouldn't think a servant would be a psychopath or a sociopath, but we all know that they're not. They're not like your servant. It's not like when you're going to Swiss Chalet and you got a servant or a server, right? That actually has to appeal to you and try to make sure your atmosphere is pleasant and your food tastes good and all that stuff so that they can get a good tip because their income relies on that, right? We're talking a civil servant, a government employee of any shape, stripe, whatever, or form. And that make all of these. So think about what that top 10 is. Let's go back up and we'll read them all again. So CEO, the head honcho, lawyer, government appointed legal expert, media, government appointed propagandist, salespeople, politician could be, or someone that wants snake oil salesman or whatever, right? So we cover that. Surgeon, once again, they're not talking doctors because you see when we get down to the bottom here, right? Surgeon, government appointed, journalist, once again, government appointed, police officer, government appointed. Clergy person, God or government appointed. Chef, still not clear on that one. And civil servant, government appointed. So, I mean, this tells you right here that the people, basically the people that work in government, the collectivists, the mysticists, they're all predominantly psychopaths. And of course, that makes complete sense. Let's see what happens on the flip side of that coin. As for those looking to potentially avoid working with the least number of psychopaths, here's a list of occupations with the lowest rates of psychopaths. Now, or psychopathy. Now, it doesn't mean that none exist, but it means that it's pretty rare, right? So, a care aide. So, the lowly person that goes into, maybe someone, home care provider, or not a nurse, but what are those ones called that are below the nurses in the hospitals? But, that change your bedpans and change dirty diapers for old people. And so, yeah, these people have massive humility, empathy, and compassion for their fellow man, woman, and child, because look at what they take upon themselves to help out their fellow man. So yeah, nurse, once again, same idea, same concept. The nurse, which is subordinate to the higher ups, but still willing to do that work. A therapist, for the most part, I suppose a therapist, if you go into it, because you're not forced into therapy, right? I mean, that's usually a voluntary thing unless you've been charged by the government, once again. But there's someone that's trying to help their fellow man, woman or child, craftsperson. So yeah, and that's once again one of those broad brush things. But so it could be even people in anything in the construction industry, trades, artists, woodworkers, carpenters, blah blah blah, craftspeople, people that work good with their hands and those types of things, right? So yeah, it makes sense. Beautician, stylist, once again. Someone and I mean, most of these people aren't rich, so they work for pretty minimal wages to help others. So, makes total sense. Charity worker. I mean, genuine charity, obviously, they're talking. Teacher. That's probably catch-22 on that one. But if your initial premise is to go in to be a teacher, then I suppose some of them are probably, less psychopathic than others. Creative artist, doctor. See what I'm saying? There's surgeon and then there's doctor. The discrepancy there is obviously a typical doctor. Once again, is what they're trying to say is that obviously a doctor is supposed to be going into their job or their career or their position to help others. And what's the first credo or whatever they say for the doctor is to do no harm, right? An accountant, yeah. Your lowly number cruncher, pencil pusher, the one that figures out all the numbers. So yeah, I believe that. And I think this is probably a very accurate representation. It seems to be, because without, putting extra emphasis on this list, even based on if someone asked me, I think my assumptions or observations would be fairly reflective of what this study is panning out. So here you are. Once again, I mean, you're seeing this, and like I said, it's even the CBC, the Doc Zone, the documentary Doc Zone. They covered it, and once again, they re-aired it. If you want to go back, listen to the whole episode in its entirety. Listen to what they have to say. I found it quite interesting, to be honest with you. So, this, once again, I'm doing this video so that people can start to recognize that, there's a whole lot. You got to look at the big picture, And I mean, yes, this is, very generalized. So there are exceptions to the rule, as with most rules, except for, completely, fully, 100% objective rules. But on a lot of things, there are exceptions to the rule. So this doesn't mean that every one of these people, but it's going to be a predominant. You're going to see the largest percentage of psychopaths in these these occupations. So when you're talking about these people in these occupations, always keep that back here, in the back of your mind, right? Or whatever you want to call it, whatever part of your mind, but just keep that tight string around your finger. But just remember that when we're talking and discussing about philosophy, politics, religion, laws, oppression, all these things, There's a very good reason why these people go into these positions. They're control freaks and psychopaths, or sociopaths as I like to call them. And they're there, and they do that because it feeds their ego, right? And they lack the empathy and compassion, and I've seen it myself. No matter how hard any situation I've been through, these type... Anyways, forget about me. We're talking about this topic. This is very representative of reality. Be smart out there. Be wise. Be careful. Let's point this shit out. And when you deal with any of these people, don't be scared of them. Oh, never, never, never be scared of them. Call them out. Shine the light on these fucks. Shame them. Don't allow them to be the psychopaths that hide who they are. When you recognize it, when you smell it, when you see it, when you hear it, when you feel it in your bones, don't remain silent about it. Talk to others. Point that out. Let everyone else be aware that these people are psychopaths, because they can be dangerous, but only to the weak. So be strong, be wise, be courageous. It's Canadian Libertarian. I love liberty.